It's Saturday, August 28th, and Kill Team Octarius has just released. We here at EonsOfBattle Inc. were busy with other projects and had no time to devote to this new game. But Jay, as usual, not allowing a little thing like reality and common sense get in his way, decided to go for it anyway. What you will see in this video is a sweaty nerd building, painting, and basing miniatures at breakneck speeds. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Eons of Battle. Kill Team Octarius came out this weekend, and me and James Workshop, usually we're in constant communication, and usually we try to build a release schedule so that things don't come out when I am super swamped. But unfortunately, James, he got a little excited on this one, and he released it a little bit earlier than I would have expected, and so it comes out this weekend. But that's okay, I think I can make it work. Now, right now, I am super busy. I'm trying to get my Star Wars Legion team up to 800 points. I'm working on my orcs. I'm working on my Gene Stealer cults. I might be doing some 3D printery sort of things, you don't know. So, I don't have a lot of time for Kill Team Octarius. I could either get it done right now or in a few weeks. I think I can get it done right now. So, this weekend, I'm going to get the box. I'm going to familiarize myself with the rules so that I'm good enough to build a proper kill team. I'm going to have to build my Krieg, and then I'm going to have to paint them. And I'm pretty sure I have plenty of time to do all of this. Now, I don't have the Octarius Kill Team box in hand. James Workshop, again, another kind of weird mix-up, but instead of sending the box to me directly, he sent it to the friendly local game store. And so I have to go there and pick it up and pay full price. But it's an honest mistake, I get it. So the shop is opening at 10 o'clock, so I should head out to pick up my box. This is a big box for 20 models and some terrain, but it looks pretty good. I'm a sucker for orange. Let's crack this box open. Ooh, there it goes. Wow, that is pretty full. Terrain, thank goodness. The templates. I can't wait to move triangle or square. I wasted a lot of time unpackaging the box. I thought I had all the time in the world. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Although I had so much work to do, I had a grand old time reading the rules. It was really interesting. I'm super familiar with all things Kill Team 1, and I was comparing and contrasting as I read. I've just finished reading the Kill Team rules, and I'm a little disappointed. I think it kinda sucks. Just kidding. Actually, this looks really fun. They've gotten rid of the morale phase, which good riddance, and instead, everything seems to have tons of wounds, which is gonna be great because now, instead of either hitting or missing, it looks like most of the time you're probably gonna hit and just not do enough damage to fully kill something, but you're gonna get to feel good because you took off 2 or 3 wounds, so good for that. I better get a move on though, because it looks like a Imperial Guard kill team is gonna consist of all 10 models. So, I gotta get building. I prepared to build, and with most modern 40k kits, it is important to follow the instructions. I gave them a read and found the options I wanted, and then I picked them out of the sprue. I used my hobby knife with a fresh blade to clean off the nubs and mold lines. There were a few. It was meant to be. My favorite weapon, the good old plasma pistol, was part number 69. That must be a good omen. I had my parts, and they were pretty easy to assemble. I used Tamiya extra thin plastic glue to assemble my parts. Look at that proud little guardsman, so noble. I prepared my favorite brand of paint handles, small cubes of wood with double stick tape. I believe this product is still patent pending, but it is the only one I'll use. These guys are so small that I found it helpful to put them onto their paint handles first and then glue on the more fiddly bits like weapons after. One model done, and it took a little while, lots of little pieces, but boy, does it look good. Now it's time to build 9 more, and I have plenty of time, right? Right? Building models is something I always underestimate in terms of time. It really is some work, and although I enjoy it a lot, I prefer to take my time. But this is a challenge. I got the lead out and I put the pedal to the metal. Well, that was an absolute slog putting together my Kriegsman, but at the very end I was having tons of fun because this kit came with lots of extra bits and pockets and pouches, and I had a really lot of fun putting on all of the little details and backpacks and stuff. Really fun. But now I have a few hours left before I have to stream. By the way, here at Eons of Battle, we stream live on YouTube every night from 9 to 10 p.m. Central. Please show up and join us here live on YouTube. But for now, I'm going to prime these guys up, and while that's drying, I'm going to work on the bases. I prime the models using my airbrush and my favorite primer, Stynylrez Res Black. And priming is always nice because it's quick and you feel like you really accomplished something. For the bases, I wanted to do something fun, so I got out my sand and some popsicle sticks and I broke out my Vallejo earth texture paste and spread it all over the bases. And with the popsicle sticks, I broke them to size, then in half, and then I spread them on the base. Maybe these are the ruins of trenches as the guardsmen cross over no man's land. I added a bit more texture paste and then I sprinkled on some small pebbles and after that some sand, letting it stick itself down to the still wet putty. I had to pause this project to go stream, but you know what is never paused? That's right, our Patreon. If you like the videos we make and you want more, the best way to support us is by becoming a member of our Patreon. Over there, you'll gain access to some behind the scenes, voting about models I paint live here on YouTube, a live hobby hangout every week, some terrain STLs, and more. With that said, I ended the live stream and got right back to work. Alright, it is very late. I am completely exhausted, but I am determined to get a base coat on these Krieg, so I'm going to dig deep and I'm going to get a little bit of paint on them before I go to bed. I sprayed a blue-black mixture over all my guardsmen. This will be my shadows. Then I sprayed them all with a light blue from above. Alright, there's paint on the Krieg. Thank goodness. I can go to bed now. Second day of the Krieg Weekend Challenge. I think I can do it. I still have some of today, although today is Sunday, and on Sundays, Nick and I and some friends play Kill Team 1, so I'm gonna lose quite a few hours to that, but maybe I can still get it done. If I really hunker down and I put the pedal to the metal, I think I can do it. Before I left to go gaming, I threw a wash mixture over my Krieg, which was 1 part Nuln Oil, 1 part Lamian Medium, and 1 part Drakenhof Nightshade. This will give me some more subtle recess shading on the coats of the Krieg. I applied this to every fella, then I left to go game. Well, I'm back from my game. It was glorious. I lost, but now it's time to finish these Krieg. I have about 10 hours. Oh god, 10 hours, 10 models. That seems impossible. But I'm gonna do it. And now I'm at a stage where I don't really know what to do. I get the question all the time, how do you paint this? How do you paint that? How do you figure out a paint scheme? And I don't really know. I feel like I approach every unit differently, every project differently. And for these guys, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint one, I'm gonna figure it out, and then that one model will tell me what operations and steps I need to do to knock out the rest of them. I threw some colors I figured I would need on my wet palette. Some brown, some blues, a black and a white, a little bit of matte medium for mixing, and some metallics. Painting this Krieg was a lot of fun. It was a time of discovery. It was also a time during the project where I still had hours ahead of me and the threat of failure was not looming so large yet. This guy turned out really nice. It painted up really easy and quick, which is good, but I really like how he turned out. I maybe did mine a little bit sillier than the classic guard scheme with the bright red eyes, but I like silly. And I feel like it really sells this as a future space soldier as opposed to a more historical figure. But I think having painted this, I don't think I'm gonna struggle that bad getting the rest of them painted up before midnight, hopefully. So I'm gonna batch paint, working step by step, and I'm gonna try to race through the other 9. Time to get to work. To paint my Krieg, I started by highlighting the coat with a slightly lighter shade of blue than I airbrushed with. I probably could have skipped this step, but alas, I am a perfectionist. After that, I painted everything that ought to be metal with gunmetal. I used Games Workshop Lead Belcher. This is Games Workshop's best metallic paint by far. Then I washed all the metal parts with Nuln Oil. This will help give them some contrast. Once that was dry, I dry brushed all of these areas with silver. It's good I painted that first Krieg, because I did this last on him, but it makes much more sense to do it first. I used my small army painter dry brush so I wouldn't accidentally splash silver where I didn't want it. Then I painted all of the leg wraps with the tan paint, and for all the boots and gloves, I used a reddish brown to base coat these areas. I brought out another brown color and I painted all of the belts and pouches with this new brown. So I have been painting for many hours and I'm starting to suspect that batch painting is not faster. Now I don't know if that's just because I am starting to get tired and annoyed about my lack of progress, or if it's true, but my hunch is that picking up and putting down the models is wasting time. Maybe I'm crazy, but I would love to run this experiment again and paint them one at a time versus batch painting them like I'm doing now. Also, I've had my time-lapse camera going this whole time, and I'm a crazy person and I need to know the camera's operating, so I have the beep turned on, which means every 5 seconds the camera goes beep, 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 and boy oh boy, that wears a person down. Thank goodness it ran out of battery so that I can have a break for a few hours, but yeah, I'm doing great. Back to painting. I threw a brown Agrax wash over the shoes, pants, and backpacks. I love a wash, it adds so much while being so easy to do. I mixed some white paint onto my brown and used this new color mixture to highlight all of the brown pouches and belts. Then I started working on the armor. It finally felt like they were coming together. I used a 50-50 blue-black mixture for this armor base coat. Then I highlighted by adding in more blue and painting this on the top facing parts of the armor. Eventually, after 4 layers, it was back to pure blue. Alright, I'm very, very close to reaching a minimum viable product on these Krieg. The only thing left is the face. And luckily, I'm all tuckered out, so now it's time to do the most fiddly, most detailed part of the mini. To paint the faces, I started by painting the cheeks of the gas masks with a gray. Then I painted the face of the gas mask with a white. This took a couple of coats, which was nerve-wracking, as this is the most important thing to get right, and I had to do it over and over and over. To finish the faces, there's a nose on each gas mask that I painted with a gray line. This was a major pain in the butt, but it was worth it to spend some quality time on the focal point of the model. Then I painted the eyes with the black base coat, and then ever so carefully I painted the eye lenses with red paint, and then just a touch of bright red to really draw the eyes to the eyes. I was tiring, my hands were a little shaking, and I painted 10 Krieg faces. It was getting really late. Well, I just hit the minimum viable product that I'm willing to accept with my Kriegers. And it's getting very late, but I'm gonna put them onto the bases, and then I'm gonna work on the bases, and I guess we'll just see how long I stay up tonight. I popped these suckers off the paint handles and attached them with plenty of super glue. I could pin, but I don't want to, and I don't think I'll need to either. On models where there was not a great flat spot for a foot to stand, I poured on extra super glue and then used an icing bottle to squirt baking soda all over the glue bond. This will do 2 things. The baking soda will make the glue dry instantly, and it'll also create more surface area between the feet and the bases. Next, while I was at a friendly local game store, I found this stuff which really looks the part of barbed wire. I cut off a length, wrapped it around a brush, and this gave me exactly the look I was going for. I bent the barbed wire in my hands and made it more irregular. Then I placed it on the bases, and where it touched the ground, I superglued it down, then added another drop of superglue and used more baking soda to create an instant ground on top of the wire to hold it down. This was super fun, but it would have been a lot more fun if it was not so late. Or early. I was so tired. I put a bit of barbed wire on every base. The bases are done being built, and I'm loving how the barbed wire looks. This is Army Painter barbed wire, and it is so neat. It's also not razor sharp, it's very soft, the way they figured out how to do it. But I love how it adds a ton to the base. But speaking of those bases, I am fading fast, so I'm gonna throw a little paint on there, and then they will be technically done, and then I think I'm gonna call it a night. It's getting late. For the bases, I wanted to experiment with some burnt umber ink. I applied this right over top of everything, and it did a good job of tinting what was already there. So the different materials all showed up as different colors, even though I didn't paint them separately. It looked alright at this point, but I decided to throw some pigments on there too. The bases were still wet, so the stuff stuck down nicely to the burnt umber ink. The Kriegsmen are done. Ish. They are based, they are painted, they're plenty playable as they are right now. I would say they're about 90% done. There's a million little things I'd like to do to them, but I'd also really like to go to bed. I'd like to go to bed more than I'd like to continue working on these guys. So that is gonna be it. I have a towel. I have a towel right here, and I'm throwing it in. Boom. Good night. There they are, the Death Corps of Krieg. My forces for the brand new kill team. And I just couldn't resist putting on the decals. My little kill team is basically kinda, sort of done. Ish. I shouldn't be so disappointed. I came so close. I could have made things much easier on myself, but I didn't want to. I don't like to compromise. I like my models to be exactly how I want them to be. And I came really, really darn close. In terms of the models, I love them. They don't remind me so much of 40k models, they seem much more like Necromunda models. They're very, very detailed and characterful. Even though I suppose they are rank and file, each one feels unique and heroic. It's gonna be really painful to see them lost in battle. Well, let me introduce you to my Krieg kill team. I mostly followed the instructions, but towards the end I did do some kit bashing and converting. I built most of them properly, but on the last 3 I decided I wanted them to be my own. I built my comms specialist as a normal Krieg advancing with a lasgun, but I gave him the comms backpack. Then for my zealot, I decided to ditch the prayer book and cover him in purity seals. And lastly, for my spotter guardsman, I cut off most of his face and attached the goggles out of the sniper scout kit. They may not look as good as the Games Workshop sculpted and posed specialists, but they are mine, and I love them. Did I achieve what I set out to do? Well, clearly yes, but actually no. I achieved exactly what I could have done in the time available. So even though I did not achieve my arguably unreasonable goal of 10 perfect Kriegsmen in a weekend, I did achieve a lot. And now I am primed and ready to try out Kill Team 2, which looks to be a really good game. I'm very excited for it. So what do you guys think? Did you get Octarius? Are you gonna build the Orcs or the Krieg? And what is your loadout? Or are you gonna build something from the Compendium? Let me know in the comments below what lists you're gonna bring to Kill Team 2, but now it's time for the real star of the show, this week's EOB Complete submissions. We put out a challenge to our community to send us before and after photos of their recently finished models to be immortalized in our videos. If you want to join in the fun, you can submit a before and after photo of your painted mini to our Discord server, which you can find in the description below, or you can post it to Instagram with the hashtag EOBComplete. Without further ado, let's look at and get inspired by what the folks have finished this week. A Nurgle Plague Crawler by Oblivion CT, a Warhammer Fantasy Battles Bone Giant by Cyrulean, a Chaos Plague Champion by mrumpke, an Orc Commandos Kill Team by Duplicorn, some Orc Squigs by Wombat74, an Adeptus Custodes Captain by HowDoesKing Crimson Work, a Nurgle Pox Magath by Barkonator, a Custom Imperial Guard Commissar by Co-Pilot Disaster, a Sister Superior by Kenetooth, a Custom Orc Weird Boy by The Raging Modeler, some Intercessor Space Marines by Zataku, a Deathkiller War Trike by Greenaxe, a good old-fashioned Ogre by Gustavo S., a Necro Knight by Alex Rider 123, a Custom Chaos Sorcerer by Grayscale, a Blood Angels Phobos Captain by Gremlins Eat 2, an Orc Primaris Intercessor by Hobo Toaster, some Necron Cryptothralls by Disco, a Primaris Librarian and Phobos Armor by The Tooch, some Tyranid Warriors by Ryoganox, a Grey Knight by ChipMercury, some Intercessor Space Marines by Pyrite, a Little Gnome Druid by Meh Nerd, a Necron Tombstalker by Lord Prime, and some Nurgle Plague Champions by HTLBobolicious. Congratulations to everyone for a job well done. It's no small feat to get paint on a mini, and you all should feel really proud. Nothing gets the hobby juices flowing like finishing a project, and we all thank you for sharing your work, motivating us and the hobby community to paint our plastic. Thanks for sharing.